各法定人
Colleagues, is the appointed time, and today's meeting has to end by 7, and I have the power to extend it by 15 minutes. I'd like to remind members, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interests, please do declare or disclose the nature of such interest in accordance with ROP 83A. And I'd also like to remind members about the rules pertaining to any direct pecuniary interest in the course of voting under ROP 84. Item 1 is about the increase in commitment by $21.695 billion in order to implement the series of measures announced by the FS in order to relieve the burden on the public, including the SMEs. In particular for SMEs, last time we already spent 5 hours 35 minutes in scrutinizing this item, and we have officials here to discuss the issues with us. As you can see from the list, at the last meeting held in November, before the end of the meeting, I already said that I would permit the 5 members on the list to speak for the last time, and then afterwards I would be dealing with 4 members who had moved 37A motions, and I've already drawn a line there, and I would not be permitting any further 37A motions, and I'm going to read out those who will be speaking for the last time: Shu Ka-chen, Gary Fan, Alvin Yang, Eddie Chu, and Ted Hui. Okay, Eddie Chu has asked the least number of questions, and therefore he'll be permitted to speak for the longest. Okay, thank you, Chairman. Last time when we discussed this, I asked the administration if they could give us the electricity tariff every month for the average household. So has he got the figures with them? Thank you, Chairman. Last time Mr. Chu asked this question as we did not have the information with us. That's why we have already sought the relevant information from the 2 power companies, but then regrettably before the meeting we have not been able to receive that piece of information from them. Probably even if we have finished the discussion today, I'd be providing the information to you through the Secretariat afterwards. Thank you. Chairman? Okay, can I express my view again? All right, a line has been drawn. Yes, please continue. All right, let me briefly summarize my view. In fact, for power tariffs or electricity charges subsidy, in fact, out of the $21 billion relief measures, the amount is very substantial because over $5 billion. But then in terms of the release time, well, that has nothing to do, that is in breach of the direction of offering contingency relief to the public. And if you'd like to do this, and if it's done as a contingency measure, and if it's done in a batch of large amount subsidy or relief measures, then the timing for the release, you should be talking about 1 or 2 months time span, because people do not have to substantially increase the use of power during the 1 or 2 months period. And actually the scope could also be widened, because for SMEs and also those in the catering industry, you have other relief and support measures for them. For example, the Mr. Li Ka-shing's private fund also targets these SMEs. So for electricity charges, the relief would be more direct to the SMEs and is much needed, because I'm sure they would be using a lot of electricity, and therefore it can be expanded so that you can define who those SMEs are, and I'm sure you would not be able to make that change within such a short space of time. But then please take note of that, so that next time if you were to offer this again, then you could at least consider this viewpoint. Thank you. Okay? Yes? Yes, we'll note Mr. Chu's views, and if we were to introduce similar measures, we'll be considering that in conjunction with those measures. Okay, Mr. Wu, we've already drawn a line there, but then since you have not spoken at all, I'll give you 5 minutes. Please do understand that is not going to be repeated. Okay. Next, Shu Ka-chen, since you're here. All right, thank you. It's about the additional 1 month SSA to the recipients. All right, by giving them 1 extra month or 2 extra months payment. In fact, there is no standard at all. Because back in 1996, for different categories of households, the standard payment has been calculated in accordance with the formula. And then for able-bodied, that the amount was suppressed. And then in 1999, the household's standard payment was also reduced. And then afterwards, you also further reduced that for able-bodied adults. And every time when you review that for able-bodied households and also for those from 60 to 64, there's another round of unfair treatment. So I'm not saying that the administration should stop issuing this or giving them 1 month additional payment. But then when are you going to review it? That is about the standard CSSA payments. So when are you going to review it? Mr. Xiu, thank you for your question. We note your suggestion. As I said last time, on November the 11th at the Welfare Services panel, we already briefed you on the arrangement. This year, we're going to review the CSSA recipients, in particular the able-bodied recipients, how they are encouraged to take up jobs. And therefore, we have the special subsidy, and that would also be extended to CSSA able-bodied recipients. We have heard the views of Mr. Xiu, and we'll bring it back to the Bureau. All right, you have noted that many times and for many years, and to note it again doesn't mean that you're going to review it. But when are you going to review it again? Well, please explain, because many people will be asking the same question. Gary Fan, 2 minutes. Well, I'd like to know whether or not the administration has any data about the BOT fund so that for the mainland scheme and also the ASEAN scheme, because there are 2 schemes, and also the number of applications that have been approved and also the amount that has been approved. Under which plan have we been releasing more money? And also because of the Sino-American trade dispute, that's going to continue for a while, and therefore many people's harvest period will be affected. Just now, we have just seen somebody making very outrageous remarks. But then we have to develop new markets and more startups will have to start their business. So my question for the administration, after the injection, will we be changing the subsidy ratio for individual schemes? And are we going to inject more money into schemes where, for example, the ASEAN scheme and also countries that have signed free trade agreements with Hong Kong, so that we will not be over-concentrating in individual economies, in particular the mainland market, because the SAR government has been notorious. In fact, they are not taking care of the overall interests of Hong Kong, but rather they are taking care of the mainland interests. Okay, thank you for your question. First, well, since the fourth quarter of 2018 to the fourth quarter of 2019, we have accepted a total of 492, and then for the ASEAN scheme, we have received a total of 602 applications. Well, for the mainland scheme, because right from the beginning, when we started it in 2012, we already did it. That's why definitely the number. In fact, we started the ASEAN scheme only in August last year. Definitely the number will be larger. And for the approved schemes, for mainland scheme, 1,902, and then for the ASEAN schemes, 180 something. And then for the mainland scheme, some $13 million, and some for the ASEAN scheme is about $11 million. Please continue. And also for startups, on this occasion, in the proposal, we have also got a new product that is a loan guarantee up to 90%. And the purpose is to enable some startups to have more room to develop new products so that they can apply for such assistance. As to the mainland market and ASEAN market, and also for places or markets that have signed FTAs with Hong Kong, well, initially when we introduced this in 2012, because it's only confined to the mainland market, that's why, as we have seen for the ASEAN market, the potential is tremendous. And also for the FTAs that have been signed between Hong Kong and other economies, in fact, the potential is also enormous. That's why, since last year, we hope that members would agree that for economies that have signed FTAs with us, they would also be able to get the assistance. So we will continue to explore further opportunities. Okay? Well, for members making innuendos against the chairman, I might not be responding to that. It doesn't mean that I agree with what you said, but then time is precious. I don't want Hong Kong to come to a standstill. So even if I do not make any rebuttal, it doesn't mean that I agree with you. So please do not make any innuendos against the chairman. But there is no point that the chairman would be arguing with you, because I don't want to spend the time arguing with you. All right, Elvin Young, you're back. 2 minutes. Elvin Young, are you asking questions? Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to take out the papers first. Chairman, I'm asking a question, and I'm putting this to Mr. Chen about the assistance to enterprises. Last time we talked about the KPIs. So for how long can you deal with those loan applications? Recently, we watched the news. Well, for the private fund, they use artificial intelligence in processing the applications, and you're talking about seconds before an application can be processed. So I'd like to know, well, given the fact that you're processing a large number of applications, do you have similar technology in dealing with similar applications, or would you be learning from the example of the private fund so that you can make use of AI, or are you still processing the applications manually? Who is to answer? I'll ask Ms. Zhang from the industry department to answer. Well, whether it's about the marketing fund and so on, we have made use of the computer system in processing the applications. We do have the plan that by the middle of next year, under the two schemes, will be using the electronic model to process these applications so that we can expedite the process. So are you saying that you would only be introducing that by the middle of next year, but then we have already got applications coming in? Does that mean that you are still processing the applications manually by naked eye? Is that the case? Can you answer the question again? Thank you. Well, in processing their applications, we need to check a lot of documentation. We also need to check the information furnished by the applying or the applicant. For example, whether or not their substantive business has to do with the relevant item, and is it feasible? And if it's just a marketing fund, it would be more simple. So long as we got the receipts, we can process the application. But then right now, internally, we have made use of the computer system, but then hopefully by next year, we would also be able to go digital. Okay, please turn on the mic for Mr. Young. So does that mean that in processing applications, at this very juncture, you're still doing it manually?
So that's actually not in keeping with the trend. If you have to wait till the end of the middle of the year, I think enterprises will have waited too long. Ted Ho is not in his seat, so Wu Chi-wai 5 minutes, and then we have to do 37A. Wu Chi-wai. I think my question is short, but thank you for giving me a chance to make inquiries. Firstly, I've noticed that in the Bud Fund, marketing, the government had stepped up its effort, but the objective market environment is changing, particularly in the context of the U.S.-China trade war. Other countries are feeling the impact. So I'd like to know, besides using the money to help explore markets, during the process of exploring markets, would you use Hong Kong? You use the Made in Hong Kong brand to help with mainland enterprises who have moved the production facilities overseas or in countries along the One Belt, One Road area. So the government, when people have moved their production line elsewhere, what have you done to help them keep their backstage departments in Hong Kong so that they can still use the Made in Hong Kong brand, then the products would not be called made in Cambodia, made in Vietnam instead. So in the process of exploring new opportunities, what channels can these enterprises go to get the policy support that is besides exploring markets that in light of manufacturers moving their production lines elsewhere, that we can help these traders to keep their backstage departments in Hong Kong? What is your target and who can provide help? Which department is responsible? And would you also have any indicators of effectiveness for us to see how things have gone? And I've also heard on the radio about the fourth round of relief package as announced by the Secretary, and the point was made by him that, yes, for SMEs or individuals, it may provide some sort of relief to some extent. Still, it seems that you're not really providing the stimulus for the economy. So I'd like to hear from the Secretary, how are you going to stimulate the economy of the $20 billion so far? My feeling is, what kind of stimulus can it have on internal domestic consumption in Hong Kong? Seems like little impact. There will be a little impact on the consumption locally. So now the budget is coming up. So I'd like to point out that within the budget, are you going to include in the budget measures to stimulate the economy so everyone can benefit and the entire society can actually go through the difficult period without excluding some people, that everyone can benefit? Who would answer? Mr. Chen? Mr. Chen? Yes. Bernard Chen? Okay, for the first part, as for factory owners, Hong Kong industries, even though their production lines may have moved to ASEAN or the mainland, but within the enterprises, their product development, design, professional services have remained in Hong Kong. So therefore, the Bud Fund, EMF are intended to help these Hong Kong enterprises promote their brand in world markets. So we hope that through the Bud Fund, we can help them expand into other markets, and EMF will be increased so that enterprises can help enhance the competitiveness and the impact of the brand. As for KPIs, as I mentioned to members, we are providing financial support, and there's also a survey that will be done to find out when a project is over in terms of staffing or particular projects, what progress has been made. I remember last week I and the director responded to similar questions. We said that we're willing to consider, for cases where funding has been allocated, we'll see where there's room for improvement further. But we don't want to impose too many barriers to projects that they must have projects that end up becoming very big in size in the end. But we're willing to consider how we can better enhance the package. Secretary? Yes. As for Mr. Wu's second question about the overall impact on the economy, stimulating the economy, and also the content of the budget, members was right. In the fourth round of relief packages, all the measures included have three directions: that is to stimulate the economy, ensure employment, and to provide relief for the public. So all the measures are, particularly in today's context. Why does it seem that there are so many measures targeting SMEs or in the form of electricity charge subsidy or exemptions of rents and so forth, because mainly we want to help with the operations of businesses so that they would not need to lay off staff so soon. But we understand members' concern that looking at the long run, we need to have more systematic approach. So besides internally within the government, having consultations internally on the measures, the Financial Secretary has already begun discussing with various political members, political parties, and various sectors about the content of the budget so we can help Hong Kong's economy pick up again. But you know, the IMF lately carried out a consultation on the fourth clause and proposed that Hong Kong should the Hong Kong government surplus should be used more to stimulate the economy. We are aware of that, so we welcome members' views. And when we carry out the consultation, please give us more of your thinking. Okay, we deal with the first 37A. Do you want to claim a division? The ring will bell for 5 minutes. Please read it out. Based on the FC's procedures 37A, I move that the committee would urge the administration to enhance the bud funds coverage and extend it to Taiwan so that enterprises who want to explore the market in Taiwan can benefit.
佢關嘅地話，我以後會做咪算。各位同事
Members, we're going to vote on the motion. So, well, we are going to vote on whether to deal with this motion.
Time
to vote now. Voting stops. Please show the results. 19 in favor, against 30, abstention 0. So I announced that the committee voted down on dealing with this 37A. So the next one is moved by Long Hin. Okay, we should ring the bell. So please go ahead. Okay, 1 minute. Can we ring the bell now? Okay, we're going to claim a division. Okay, we have to deal with this. Ho Chun-yin said that based on 37A, he moved that for similar motions. When we claim a division, the committee should actually get a vote underway 1 minute. After the bell has rung for 1 minute. What should be the procedures like?
緊要啊，做咗佢嘅先。係做咗佢。嗱
The secretary has told me that. Well, it just happened in a split second, but we can actually do this first. Okay, let the bell ring for 5 minutes. Do I need to read? Okay, let me read the motion. Okay, well, this is not a decision made as split second, but we're urging that the electricity charge subsidy be applicable to subdivided flat tenants, so that even if they're applying for the meter, they should not be denied of the eligibility for applying for the electricity charge subsidy.
Well,
let me remind all of you that after completing the 37A motions, we will have to deal with 5 more items, so we will have to compress the time, given the fact that all of us are here already. So we'll have to compress the time for voting so that it will take just 1 minute instead of 5. All right, if there is any typo, then what should we do? What if there is a typo here? Well, we will have to allow it to continue. But then apparently there is a typo, a wrong character being put into it. So be it, says the chairman.
個會記錄就個內容就我哋用 hyperlink 嘅方法就係正原本佢喺電腦會睇到咯。
即係個影像。
係個影像。
嗱，各位。
Colleagues, by way of correction, according to the Secretariat, all right, members of the public could only see the original wording. So if it's abusive language, then nothing can be done about it. But then for wrong characters, they could only see the hyperlink. They could only see the image, so they couldn't do anything about it. So please do not spoil the image of members. Please make sure that your handwriting is correct. Yes, Mr. Aulokhim, I'd like to apologize to members because I only wrote it down and in split second. That's the reason why there was a typo. So please bear with me, and next time round I'll be writing more properly so that it would look nicer. And then if I have the time to correct it, I would rectify the situation. I would not have written the wrong word. Then it's okay for you to come up with a revised motion. All right. I'll do the revision, but then you will have to thank Mr. Ma Fong Kwok for pointing that out to you. So you can write it out again for the future. On this occasion, we cannot see it. It's okay.
project 所以我都喺度呼籲咧，大家真係唔好離。
So I'd like to call upon all of you not to leave because we're going to compress the time from 5 minutes to 1 minute, and therefore we'll be pressing ahead with the voting procedure. Okay, if we are able to change it to 1 minute, then please do not leave. Yes, Stephen Ho. Well, it's okay to write the wrong word, but then in accordance with the rules of procedure. All right, during the last couple of seconds, if you change the wording and if you change the motion, then the procedure is not right. All right, Mr. Aulokhim, he has already clarified this, but then I suggest that you put in the original wording, or else if everybody changes the words, then it's not okay. I think it's up to the chairman, and then if there should be any blame, the chairman will be taking up the liability. All right, if everybody writes the wrong word, because sometimes there can be double meaning to a different word. All right, that should not happen again. Okay? Okay, we'll be voting on it unless you say that we cannot vote on this. Well, Chairman, I have something to say, Chairman. Please, don't waste time. Chairman, I think that word bill is not right. Okay, please cast your votes. All right, voting is completed and the result will be displayed. 19 for, 31 against, no abstention. I declare the motion is negatived. Okay? Okay, so yours should go first. Okay, I'll put the next motion to the vote. That is in accordance with Rule 45. The voting time will be compressed from 5 minutes to 1 minute, so the bell will be rung for 1 minute instead of 5. Okay, please ring the bell for 5 minutes. Thank you.
個係啊，因為縮晒落去，佢見唔到嘅咁就。
好啊，請大家開始。
Okay, please proceed to vote.
好啦，而家係
Voting is closed and the result displayed. 33 for, 20 against, no abstention. I declare the motion negatived. Yes, Ip Kin Yun. Do we have to ring the bell? 1 minute. Chairman, can I read it out? Can I read out the motion? Chairman, can I read out the motion? Just a minute. Who is shouting? I've already told him to wait. I was asking whether or not there was any division being claimed. If that is the case, then I will just stop the bell. All right, there is a claim for division. Okay, somebody claims a division. Yes, Mr. Ip. I hope that you support this 37A motion. And the content is that this committee suggests that starting from next year, 2020-2021, for every student attending day school, primary school, and kindergarten, the subsidy should be regularized, and also it should be extended to children aged 0 to 18, and also for students pursuing full-day programs at tertiary institutions. They should all be able to benefit. Okay? We are dealing with this 37A motion. Okay, the result will be displayed. 19 for, 30 against, 1 abstention. I declare that it's negative. Last 37A motion. Okay, you claim a division. Fernando Jiang, you can read it out. Well, in accordance with Rule 37A of the Finance Committee, I'd like to move that given the fact that this is a contingency relief measure, we should understand that many working class are faced with underemployment, the problem of underemployment. That's why this committee suggests that this subsidy should start from June this year, and the working hours requirement should be lifted so that the higher subsidy should be given to all the eligible low-income families, and we should also release the maximum amount for this because it's a one-off payment.
係請講。
Yes, please. Yes, Chang Han Peng. Okay, let's wait until after we are voted. Okay, so please proceed to vote. Mr. Wong Teng Kwong. Okay, everybody's in, and the result displayed. 18 for, 34 against, no abstention. I declare that the motion has been negatived. Yes, Mr. Chen Hangpan, do you have anything to say? All right, I received a short message from people viewing the live broadcast. So can you explain to us? The motions that we were voting on is about whether or not we should discuss it. It's not about whether or not we should support it. So can you explain that to our viewers? Yes, I already made it clear before we cast our votes. Okay, so we have voted on 5 motions. As you are aware, well, it's your request, and there's been no objection from the administration, and I'm sure you all understand it. For the first motion, if you have no further questions, then FCR 2019-39 is about those. Do we want to claim a division? It's about offering 1 month's rent for lower income tenants living in the public rental units of the Hong Kong Housing Society and Housing Authority. Okay, a division is claimed, and the bell will be rung for 1 minute.
It's now time to vote. Voting ends. Please show the results. 15 in favor, 1 against, 0 abstention. The motion is carried. Proposal is carried. The next one is FCR 2019-2039, providing one-off electricity charges subsidy to eligible residential households. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, the bell will ring for 1 minute.
現在開
Time to vote now. Voting ends. Please show the results. 49 in favor, 1 against, 0 abstention. The proposal is approved. The third one is about 2019-20 school year, providing subsidy for day school students. The bell will ring for 1 minute.
好啦，請大家表決。
Please vote now.
將係 OK 咁。
Okay. Please show the results. 51 in favor, 1 against, 0 abstention. So I now announce that the proposal is approved. The fourth one is for recipients of Social Security payments, working family allowance, and individual-based work incentive transport subsidy be given one-off extra allowance. The bell will ring for 1 minute.
So
It's now time to vote.
現在停止表。
Voting ends. Please show the results. Those in favor 49, 1 against, 0 abstention. So proposal is approved. The last one is small and medium enterprises support measures. Claimant division, please. The bell will ring for 1 minute. It's now time to vote. Voting ends. Please show the results. 50 in favor, 2 against, 0 abstention. So the proposal is approved. So now let's move on to the next item. This item invites members to, with effect from April 1st, 2019, to approve the following adjustments to the civil service pay scales arising from the 2019-20 civil service pay adjustment. An increase of 4.75% in the dollar value of the pay points in the directorate and upper salary band, subject to the pay points referred to in 1 and 2 below, the dollar values of which should be as specified. First is pasta pay scale 34 at 74,515 and MPS 35 at 75,265, and point 2 General Disciplined Services Officer pay scale 20 and Police pay scale 36 at 74,390 and GDS 21 and PPS 37 at 75,135, and an increase of 5.26% in the dollar value of the pay points in the middle and lower salary bands. Corresponding adjustments to the provisions for aided schools as well, as provisions for the ICC as well, and corresponding adjustments to subventions which are price adjusted on the basis of formulae that include a factor on civil service pay adjustment. The Civil Service Bureau consulted the civil service unions, and we had 40. Now with us, we have the Secretary for Civil Service and his team with us. So may I now invite the panel of the Civil Service Affairs Chairman. A point of order, sorry. Who would like to speak? Ao Lok Hin. Point of order. I ask that the police officers' pay increase be discussed separately. That's my request, and it should be voted on separately as well. Others with similar requests, can you let me do that? Chairman, I hope that you can make a judgment on this, because there's no reason why. Well, we accept whatever the government put in. There are lots of civil servants, various government departments involved, but people have much views on salary increments for police officers. So, Chairman, you should be independent. Legislature should have its own independence. If members feel that, they have issues with certain pay increases, then we should pull out that item, particular case. Alvin Young? Who would like to ask questions? Okay, Kwakaki and... Okay, have you written down all the names? Okay, let me read out the names of members who want to speak. Okay. Let me read out the name. Kwakaki, Leung Kai-chung, Charles Mok, Alvin Young, Joe Hoydick, Andrew Wan, and also Chang Lai Wan. So I'd like to ask you, do you all have the same question? No, you don't know. Okay. Can you answer my question first? Your question. Do you have to answer all questions? Leung Kai-chung, why don't you go first? Well, okay, I can just answer your question and I won't answer the others, because you may all have the same question. So let's not go back to the point of order. Now, we need, in dealing with the point of order, according to which real procedure would you raise the question? Yes, based on what rule? Well, the rule is that you can look it up. We can all look it up now. We can adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes first and look up the clues involved. I need time to find it out. Okay, please find it first before asking the questions. Why don't we adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes? Okay, if you can't give me the answer, I just want you to separate the item. This is just common sense. There's no need to talk about the rule involved. If the government really give you proposals, you don't have to accept them all in one lot. Members have reservations about increasing salary for police officers, then you can just pull the item. Okay, opinion noted. Next one, Leung Kai-chung. Kenneth Leung. Point of order. Let him finish first. Well, Have you answered his question? What point of order based on which paragraph? He was just stating his view. Please get prepared. According to which rule? Let us know. Next one is Lang Kai-Cheng. What point of order? I'm just look at the FC's responsibilities. I think you can guess what we're going to ask. We are hoping to have the various pay increase proposals discussed separately. If you look at the procedures for FC, in terms of our responsibilities, Chairman, you do have a lot of discretion that you can make in relation to the proposals, financial proposals submitted to us by the government. You can deal with them in various ways. You can also separate items included in one specific proposal. So tell us which you think have violated the rule. Can you highlight the rule involved? I'm talking about the entire document on the procedures. You need to be specific. Next one, Gary Fan. Based on the FC procedure, rule number 3. Rule number 3, Chairman, in dealing with the procedures, for example, in lately about the funding proposal for universities, because of the protests and pressure from the pro-establishment camp, the government pulled the item on funding proposal for universities. And now we're talking about this item on pay increment for police officers. Please listen to Chairman. Procedure 3, what does it say? You need to be very specific. If you just say whatever you want to say and not follow the rule, and if you just make things up, I will let you speak again. Please be more serious.
Please study it before you raise another point of order. Next, Andrew Wen. Chairman, I'm checking because all of a sudden you've been so strict. Okay, next, Mr. Roy Kwong. Chairman, you're in a rush because he needs time to check it. Well, Chairman, number 1, under the FC procedures. Well, in terms of arranging the agenda, we have had some discussion. So can you point to a specific rule? Is that the way you conduct a meeting? I'm just adhering to the procedures. What's the problem? So you cannot just do whatever you want. Mr. Roy Kwong, if that's the way, well, I can give you more time to check it. Under which rule, under which procedure are you banning us from speaking? Because all along it's been the case. Because in the past, I would permit you to speak. So this is the way that I chair or conduct a meeting. Please do not shout. It's not your turn yet. It's not your turn yet. You are ridiculous, says Dr. Helena Wong. So what's the rule? What's the rules for the House Committee? Because the presiding member has not been doing things correct. Even if he's from the Democratic Party, you should have spoken. All right, this is the FC meeting, and you should not waste my time. Even if you don't want to pass the civil service pay rise, you should have. You will still need to adhere to the rules. You will have to convince them not to do this because civil servants have been very concerned about this. Do you know how many calls we have received? I don't think civil servants will support you. Nobody would agree that they should not get a pay rise. All right, you can speak if you're able to identify a procedure that suits your purpose. But then you have not finished. You have not been able to point to a specific procedure that you'd like to refer to. All right, if your thinking is aligned with mine, then I'll give you a minute, and then you can refer to the point of procedure, and then the administration can explain why this cannot be singled out. So you're just making things difficult for me, that's all. It's your choice. It's your choice. So do you need to discuss it amongst yourselves? Yes, please continue. It's okay. Okay. I've taken several minutes. You have not been able to point to a point of order. Okay. I've already asked you many times. Just a minute. Let me decide. I'll allow Mr. Kwok Wai Keung to speak first. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, please speak. Thank you, Chairman. Well, it's time for them to be ashamed of themselves, okay? So it's about the meeting of the Public Service Panel. In fact, on the 21st of June 2019, we discussed the issue about the civil service pay adjustment for 2019-20. Members generally supported the proposal to offer a pay rise to civil service, and they also supported that for the lower rung of the civil servants and also for the middle ranking, they should be aligned. And members welcome the administration's proposal that from 2019 and 20, with regard to the spending, there should be a cap in order to respond to the staff side's concern that with regard to the net increase, the spending might be eroding the amount. That's why at different pay bands for 2018, 2019, 2019, and 2020, the average increase when compared to that specific salary bands, we should go for the lower spending. And for the pay trend surveys net indicator, we should correspond with that. But then, with regard to those who are already at the maximum point of the pay scale, that's not fair. That's why they asked for a review, and the administration's response was that some 74% of those participating in the pay trend survey, that is the private organizations taking part in the survey, they said that in considering the pay rise, they already considered the meritorious pay rise. And then for the deductible pay points, the purpose is to factor in the bonus and so on, and therefore there has been no plan to take this out of the formula. They said that in dealing with the civil service pay adjustment, they hope that members would first deal with that, and they'd like to seek the approval from the FC on this. All right, we'll start afresh. Okay, please jot it down again. Point of order. So please prepare for it. Okay, so we'll do it again.
OK。嗱，我或者我同大家編埋次序啦嚇。
Can I arrange for the order of your asking question? First, KK Kwok, Kenneth Leung, and then Charles Mock, and then Gary Fan, and then Eddie Chu, Ngao Lok Hin, the seventh, and then Roy Kwong, and so on. Okay, first KK Kwok. And also Ray Chen. So 11th, Ray Chen. And then the 12th is Lang Yu Chong. Okay, KK Kwok. So please quote the procedure that you're referring to. Yes, I'm referring to the FC procedure. Procedure 21 and 22, they are very clear. That is for any agenda item placed before us, it has to go through the Financial Secretary, the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, the Permanent Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, or a Deputy Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, each being a public officer designated by the government, and there should also be notice given to members. And Mr. Oh Lok Hin already made it clear. He already made the inquiry about the arrangement. For example, in discussing the civil service pay adjustment, so long as there is a member who suggested that the police pay adjustment should be separated from the voting, and under 21 that should be permitted. And of course, in doing so, he would also have to get this committee and also the representative from the FA panel before we can do so, because I think this is a responsible act, because that would also reduce the time for our debate. 1 minute. You have to finish in a minute. So you want me to allow you to speak for 15 minutes? That's not possible, okay? So please turn on the mic for Eddie Chu. All right, normally you would allow for 1 minute. You would just allow us to express our views, but then that's the way you did it. But then you asked us to quote the provision. So that would take at least 40 seconds. So we are very serious. We will have to identify the relevant procedure, and yet 1 minute would not be enough. Well, please understand this, members. If you think there is a point of order, then I would not expect that there would be any point of procedure problems, because it's very simple. Because I've checked it all, and then if you just insist on doing this, I don't want you to say that I'm putting words into your mouth. All right, I can spend time to argue with you as to why it's not there. Okay, as before, I would permit you to speak your mind, and then I'll invite the administration to respond to this. So can you explain why it's not allowed? It's very simple, because when they put forth proposals like these, so can we just ask the administration to explain why they would not be prepared to withdraw it? Because we are already on the queue. So can you explain why it would not be permitted? Well, what is before us is do we want to invoke the procedures, and then you said that it's not the case, and then you asked me to explain it. So would you like to waste time like that, or you can just explain why you'd like to take this out, and then after you've spoken for a minute, I'll ask the administration to explain why they would not prepare to accept it, because I think this meeting is for the purpose of asking questions. Mr. Ray Chan, I think you're presuming that for those who have raised their hands, most of them would be interested in singling out the police pay rise item. So can you ask who would not be interested in this before we discuss the issue about the police pay rise? So would any one of you be raising points of order other than the point about police pay rise? Ray Chan, are you one of them? So can you be more relaxed about it? Because I have to read it out before I explain it. Well, in accordance with Rule 44, it says that representatives from the relevant bureau and/or department are in attendance to answer questions which members may have. Any member who requires a comprehensive or very technical or reply to his question at the meeting should notify the clerk beforehand so that the answer can be prepared. I'm not going to read out everything here. Okay, given the fact that there are so many members who have comments about the police pay adjustment, even if it cannot be withdrawn, why can't we just proceed with those that are not related to police pay rise, so that we can make a request for the representative from the Security Bureau to come here instead of just having Lord Chi Kwong here? And if you need to give a notification or notice to the Secretary for Security to come, then it will take some time. Even if we are not able to approve it today, then under 44, can we ask the police force and also the Security Bureau to send representatives here? In fact, you've already written to the administration asking them to take this out, and the administration has already responded in writing and explained why it should not be taken out. Okay, I'll leave it to the administration to answer. Why have they not asked the Commissioner for Police and also the Secretary for Security to come and answer the questions? Okay, I'll leave it to you, administration. Thank you, Chairman. With regard to government funding proposal, I'm sure you'd understand the long-standing practice has been that the administration would be looking at its understanding of the issue and arrange for representatives to come and answer members' questions. And on this occasion, we have got a team of officials, and the consideration has been consistent with our past practice. And if you have any questions, I'm sure those of us here would try our best to answer your questions. Mr. Ray Chan, the question is, well, on this item in accordance with para 44, can we ask the Security Bureau and also the police representatives to come and answer questions? Do we have the power and do they want to do it? Well, I don't think para 44 should be interpreted in that manner. And if you require very technical replies, it's not my need, it's that they have a need to answer that in detail. I'm not speaking on behalf of the administration. I'm just looking at the replies from the administration. All right, they have already made it clear. Because for the pay rise is a package, so they have not taken into account the performance of individual department and so on. So it's not wrong for them to do so. Because para 14 also look at the 4 councils of the police force. So if we want to ask deeper questions, do we have the power to ask them to come and answer questions? Well, it's about the relevance, so I'll leave it to the administration. So will they be able to help? You will have to convince members why the police are not represented here. Well, let me explain here, Chairman. If you've noticed, if you look at the proposal to single this out, well, all the written submissions from members, well, the Civil Service Bureau has already answered all the questions raised by members, and in the written reply, I'm sure you have read it. That is, with regard to the civil service pay adjustment, there is an established mechanism, and the proposal is a whole package. And therefore, we are looking at it from the policy perspective, and we think that it should not be segregated. And in our view, the Civil Service Bureau has already explained the situation to members, and they have already come up with a policy direction and justification for that. And therefore, on that basis, that explains the reason why we have only sent out this team to answer members' questions. All right, Chairman, as you understand it, we have not asked for a segregation of the item, and we're just asking for the representatives to come and answer the questions, and it's for me to decide whether or not I support it. I'm not asking for it to be singled out for voting. Well, it's a follow-up question. Chairman, I think our view has been expressed very clearly in simple terms. After very careful consideration, we believe that the representatives that have been sent by the administration should be able to answer the questions that members may have on this issue. All right, whatever they say, do we have the power to do so? Okay, it says here that you will have to give prior notification. Well, I can just submit the request. You will have to justify. So I'm asking for a representative from the Bureau and the department.
You need to convince people that there's a need to ask them to come. You can't just get anyone you want to come. You can't assume that that person cannot answer our questions. I'm not assuming, but I'm just thinking that no point in getting someone who can answer your questions. So we're not convinced that you need to individually, ask the police side. According to what you said, you would have to invite people from all government departments. So now we need to be very focused. This is FC. If you think that the police have not done a good job, you can follow it up in another committees. FC. All along, we have had the secretary here to answer questions because he's the most relevant people here for this meeting. Okay, each one will have 1 minute. Okay, why would you want to take out that proposal in particular? Please go ahead. So, okay, go ahead. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to talk about the other item to be taken out, but on Rule 44 itself, can we establish a direction as mentioned by Ray Chan just then that, well, I may propose that in discussing the civil service pay adjustment, I'm sure many questions would be related to the pay rise for police. If the Civil Service Bureau can answer our questions today, I think we can establish the need then. Next week, when they come back, we can have the consensus that the police can come next time to answer our questions. Would that be our basis? If you're not pleased with the answers, then that will form a basis for us to ask them to come. Your point is reasonable, but I think we need to establish something first. That please understand, this is FC. You should be asking about the financial aspect. If the secretary can answer your questions about the financial aspect, then you can ask them to make preparations and give you the answers you wanted next time. I can't make sure or guarantee that the answers will be satisfactory. But if you're not satisfied with the answers, then you can ask them to go back to prepare or ask the police to come. Gary Fan, what's your question? Based on the rules of procedures for FC 36, that members can ask to speak by raising hands or pressing the button. I did raise my hand. And Rule 34, we can speak in Cantonese, Putonghua English. And also in 30, the committee shall determine its own practice and procedure. And that's what exactly mentioned by Rachel and Eddie Chu. That is subject to the rules of procedure of the LegCo. The committee, the finance committee itself, can determine its own practice and procedure. So therefore, Chairman, let me say to you, based on Rule 27, that is, if we are to make amendments to government proposals on financial proposals, of course, it's the financial secretary to decide where to make a fresh proposal in such a way that make it acceptable to the committee. So we can actually ask for amendments, because now the pay adjustment for police is controversial, and so it can be singled out and taken out for us to deal with it separately. So you can convey our view to the Bureau and then get them to give us a proper reply. But many people have done quicker than you. Fernando Zhang, Eddie Chu, Democratic Party have already written to us. I'm talking about FC. In June, I made the same point at the panel. I'm talking about FC. FC actually has written to the administration, and we've got a written reply already. So, Permanent Secretary, have you decided, or are you going to make an amendment to the proposal or to take out the increment proposal for police? Yes, Chairman, you're right. Several members have already written to the administration making the same request, and Civil Service Bureau has stated clearly the government's stance. Okay, so who else wants to ask questions? Alvin Young? Chairman, in the past, we saw that under the Secretary, point of order, which point of order? Rules of Procedure 26. Take a look. Withdrawal of agenda items. In the past, the Secretary exercises power to pull the proposal for universities without citing any objective criteria, just on the basis that they wanted to review that proposal. And now, there's so much opposition against the salary increment for police, and yet you try to have it discussed here and passed here. Now, would you go back to Rule 26 and give Secretary the power to withdraw the item, or let them resubmit the item in separate proposals, in the form of separate proposals? Well, this is really not a point of order. Let me say to you, point of order is about whether what we are engaged in has to be dealt with first before we can continue our meeting. For example, if there's a lack of quorum, then that will be a procedural matter because we don't have enough members here. But now you've twisted the nature. There's no one talking about withdrawal of an item now. The Secretary? Permanent Secretary? Yes, you may understand that at FC, Financial Secretary, or other representatives of the FST Bureau, if we are to withdraw or add any items, we are communicating with the Finance Committee as a representative, but we cannot make any decision on the basis on behalf of any bureau. In the past, items were withdrawn after consultation with the Policy Bureau concerned. So we were just expressing the intention on their behalf. On this proposal on civil service pay adjustments, as far as I know, the relevant bureau has not expressed any intention to amend the proposal, so we're not going to make a decision on their behalf. Andrew Wan, while quoting 44 and so forth, the other rules, I think you, Chairman, you quoted the rules, but now for the administration, I think that their stance changed from time to time. They quoted Rule Procedure 26, citing concern from other members to withdraw an item from the agenda, and yet today they're not doing the same thing. You would agree that there's a lot of opposition against the controversy against the pay rise for police. So, because we quoted Procedure 26, because that would affect our intention to discuss the item, to continue the discussion. We're now actually using our time. So you should adopt the same criterion. Why is it that the government's acting so strangely? Citing concern by some members by the establishment came and they decided to withdraw an item. But why not this time when this proposal is so controversial and has attracted concern from us? Well, what you've all said actually is not really a proper point of order, in my view. So you are just trying to see why we can't pull that item. So now I'm opening it to the floor. You can ask them to explain. But you're being unfair to other members because you're all asking the same question. I ask them to answer again and then I will open it to the floor. This is not a point of order, but why do you think that that proposal on pay rise for police has to be taken out? So, P.S., you heard the question, right? Could you answer? Chairman, as I just said, on individual item, as for the administration, whether we would withdraw it from the agenda, we had to discuss with the relevant policy bureau first. And based on their analysis, they would let us know their decision and we would express it on their behalf. Let me reiterate this again. All these items concerned, the relevant policy bureaus have publicly expressed their hope that we would actually act on the basis of their decisions. Chairman, my understanding is that members were concerned about the overall civil service pay adjustment, part of it. They have views on part of the overall civil service pay adjustment. I think what's more meaningful is it when we enter into discussion of the proposal, then the civil service bureau representatives officials can answer any questions members may have, and that will be more helpful. Andrew Wan, Chairman, my question is not get her to read out the procedures involved. I'm just saying that they have abused procedure because they have adopted double standard in dealing with the procedure. Why are they contradicting themselves? They're being biased towards some members. You're challenging their decision, right? Why they listen to some members and not others, right? Yeah, why can't they take out the item, particular part of the proposal? P.S. The fact is, when we are dealing with various items, we need to, on concern raised by members, and in a limited time, see whether we can deal with them all. We can make judgment on that. Under different circumstances, there could be various ways of dealing with various situations, but it's not that we are being biased towards other or particular members. We just have to deal with different scenarios in different ways. Can they ask the Secretary for Civil Service to answer my question instead? Because it's part of the policy makers. This is not just a financial issue. But Ms. Lau was speaking on behalf of the government. It's Ms. Lau who made the decision. But maybe the Secretary can also answer. Would you like to say something? Thank you, Chairman. In our reply to members' letter, we stated very clearly that we had to follow the mechanism, the importance of that. All along, every year, the civil service pay adjustment was made in accordance with the mechanism to cover all civil service departments and grades. We would not consider individual departments or staff's performance within the civil service. That's very clear under the mechanism. I know that members had their views on individual staff, but within the civil service establishment, there is established mechanism through which you can deal with any complaints you might have about the staff. So I don't see any reason why the annual civil service pay adjustment proposal should be handled differently from the existing mechanism. Okay, last time. Can you save the one last time? Chairman, I didn't get it. Let me give you an example. For the funding proposal for universities, they didn't follow the established mechanism and pulled it from the agenda. So why can't they do the same thing this time? I really don't get what they were saying. Maybe you are smarter. You got it. You got what he said. If they had gone through the followed the established mechanism last time, then why can they, if they are having a unitary procedure or single procedure to follow, then why can't they do the same this time? Unlike last time, who would answer? The mechanism has been around for a long time, and it's always covered all civil servants. Our main factors of consideration are that in the past, in the past year before April 1st, in the private sector, can I finish? In the private sector, there have been salary adjustments. So we need to consider the extent of salary increment in the private sector and make adjustments accordingly. And we also need to consider the cost of living here and the increments, changes in the indexes and the government's financial situation and the civil servants' claims for salary adjustment and their morale as well. So on the basis of these 6 factors,
and also other factors, we consider the rate of adjustment every year, and we also look at different pay bands in determining the rate of adjustment. So there are 3 pay bands, so that's the way we consider the pay adjustment. But then we would not be looking at individual civil servants or individual departments, including the performance in the eyes of members of this council in determining to what extent they should get a pay rise. Sorry, speaker's not coming through. Can he just listen to what we ask before he answer the question? All right. So you're not addressing the issue here. Okay, Holden Chow, you will also have to speak in accordance with the rules, the procedure. Well, procedure 31. The chairman is responsible for the observance of the rules of order in a committee. His decision on a point of order shall be final. All right, in the past hour or so, we've been listening to the opposition camp. They've been referring to the points of order, asking for the police pay rise being taken out from the bundle. So I suggest that we should go back to the agenda proper so that the floor is open to members' discussion, because I think the only proper thing to do is to open the floor for members to discuss it instead of being bogged down by this, and you're only focusing on taking the issue about police pay rise out for separate discussion and voting. All right, during the past 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and so on, you can also justify why you'd like it to be taken out, and then it's for them to explain, because we have 11 members in the queue already. First, Andrew Wen, it's your turn. All right, Gary Fan is not here. So, Andrew Wen, 5 minutes. Let me tidy up my speech because I was dealing with other issues. I haven't been able to come round to considering it. Okay, I can see that there's a survey about the performance of the discipline services or the police force. Is that 40% of the respondents gave it 0 score. In the contrary, out of the discipline services, the fire services have been able to get the highest score. And yet, between the two discipline services, there is a discrepancy in terms of their pay scale. So can you explain how you came up with this pay scale? Because I remember some colleague asked this before. But then, if I remember it correctly, you haven't really explained it properly. So how come you're talking about two discipline services, including an inspector with the fire services and inspector with the police? How come their pay is so different? And in the past, that has been the case because there has been this discrepancy and it's not really justified. Mr. Joshua Wong, Joshua Law. All right, for people in different discipline services and also the difference in their pay scale. Well, under different consultative framework and advisory bodies, there have been reviews and that the decision has been based on the outcomes or findings of their reviews, and there have been internal comparabilities and comparables and so on. So that's the outcome of such reviews. And for the discipline services last year, we announced that there would be a grade structure review, including all discipline services, including the police force and also the FSD and other discipline services. So there'll be a grade structure review. So we'll be looking at the overall pay scale of individual discipline services to decide if there is a need for further adjustment. Chairman, I can understand that, but then can I read out the figures? For example, for the police inspector and also the team leader for fire services is 45,305, and then for the fire services, the equivalent rank is only $43,000, and then for policemen is $30,000, and then for the fire services it's just $27,000. You just said that it's not based on performance, but then in determining the original pay scale, the nature of job, and also the public support or perception, and also the danger involved in the course of their duties. So it's about the determination of the original pay scale. All right, this is not looking good, because if you look at those who die in the course of duty, I think the number of fire officers who die in the course of duty was the highest. Bureau Director, as Mr. Wen said, in determining the pay scale for individual discipline services, we have already taken into account the level of danger and also the job nature, and also the duties that they have to discharge. So obviously, at the time, during the last review, we were of the view that in different departments, given their working environment and their operation, there is a need for this gap to exist, and that was the basis for that decision. As to what should happen in the future, as I said, the Standing Commission on Discipline Services is looking into this, and I think it's time for them to take a look into this to decide whether or not the differential should remain or there should be better alignment or realignment. Yes, next, Gary Fan. I think public opinion is very clear. We should go after police brutality, and it's a very urgent matter. And police have been using force and gun and weapon and so on. But then they can only act in a lawful manner. And under the law, the police force should avoid committing anything that is against the law. And if they have committed such acts, they should also be subject to prosecution, and they should also be brought to book. But then the thing is, the law enforcement agency is not acting in accordance with the law, and yet they have not been punished. And there are suspicion that the senior management of the police force are condoning such unlawful acts. That's the biggest social problem that we are facing. And that's the reason why we have lost confidence in the rule of law in Hong Kong. Hong Kongers are permitting the government to use taxpayers' money to incite the police force to suppress the political demands of the public. And some people have actually compared the pay scale of the police force with their counterparts overseas, and the CP actually can get $290,000 a month, which is somewhat higher than the President of the United States, who only gets $260,000, and actually their pay is even higher than the President of France and also Taiwan President, $125,000. And in recent months, the police have been dealing with the rallies and protests, and as a result, they are getting a lot of overtime payment, and their pay would be a lot higher than their fellow discipline services staff. And for those civil servants who have been prosecuted, all of them have to have their duties suspended. And given the current funding system, actually we are moving towards martial law, and actually they're suppressing political opponents, and they're suppressing political demands. So in September and October, for off-duty police officers, you're actually allowing them to use tear gas and also batons and so on. So has there been any evidence to show to what extent have they been using pepper spray and also batons and so on, and how much money has been spent in allowing such off-duty police officers to get OT pay? Bureau Director. First of all, I cannot agree with the remark that the force used by the police would amount to brutality, because for the police officer, when they are faced with the escalating violence, they have to use corresponding force in dealing with such violence. And therefore, for any person who thinks that the work of the police force or in enforcing the police enforcement of the law, if they have any queries about that, there are established procedures for them to lodge complaints. So please address the point, because I have to correct the statement. So you're of the view that July 21st, August 31st, and also on the 1st of October, it's okay for the police officer to fire at a high school student at close range. You don't think that the police are using violence? No, I never said that they're using violence. Right at the beginning, you refer to violence, Bureau Director, because some people might think that the police have been resorting to violence. So have you been paying these off-duty police officers OT pay? You will have to clarify this. Because this is the Finance Committee and we're talking about civil service pay rise, so you will have to answer the question. How are you going to answer the question, Bureau Director? All right, for overtime work, there is established mechanism. If a colleague, during a particular period of time, if he works overtime, then in accordance, within a month, if he is not able to take time off, then he'll be eligible for this allowance. But then for off-duty police officers, how much have you spent on that? I don't have the figures with me. Why not? Because I do not see how that is related to this item on civil service pay rise, because this is an expenditure item. It's about Hong Kong people's money. It's public money. But then for pay rise, Bureau Director, this is public money. Well, we have to act in accordance with the overall mechanism in dealing with civil service pay rise. For overtime work, under Head 000 of the police force, this year we have set aside some $20.2 billion for the payment of salary and also other items of expenditure. Mr. Roy Wong, thank you, Chairman. In fact, we have resorted to different ways so that we would not be bundling everything together in the civil service pay rise, because if you look at the performance of the police, it's been a very controversial issue. I think it's an indisputable fact, and yet you're bundling it up with civil service pay rise. And if the police force pay rise is not taken out, then you are actually making it you're making it impossible for the civil service pay rise to be passed. So to what extent are the public happy with the performance of the police? Can you tell us, Bureau Director? Well, in Hong Kong society, there are different quarters and people, and they may have different opinions about civil service performance. I respect that. But then overall speaking, they are very dedicated. Do you know to what extent people are not happy with the performance of the police? Can you answer the question? Well, police have to act in accordance with the duties in discharging their duties. So I'm asking, do you know to what extent they are not happy with their performance? So my question is very clear. Can you ask him to answer the question? I don't think that is related, because you should be asking him about the pay rise mechanism. How did he come up with the pay rise mechanism? All right, allow him to answer the question. Bureau Director, Mr. Kwong, I understand that you have your own opinion, because I'm asking you, to what extent do you understand that people out there are not happy with the performance of the police? But then there are many people who recognize the hard work of the police. All right, there's a survey. The net satisfaction level is just 38%. So 40% gave them 0 score. So police force is at the bottom of the ranks. So we're just asking that that should be taken out. So I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just suggesting that to make things easier so that we can discuss with you. So I'm not standing in the way of civil service pay rise. So can it be singled out? I think the chairman has also worked on this, but then you're not really taking heed of his advice. But then what is before us? Well, at this time, and you're asking the Hong Kong people to increase the pay for the police force, would you not feel ashamed of it? All right, you're getting some $300,000 a month, and you're getting very high pay. You don't understand how upset people are out there. Some 40% of the respondents are giving them 0 score. So please do not increase their pay. Well, even if you want to do so, you should take it out for separate voting. So have you taken the advice from the chairman? Why are you bundling it up with civil service pay rise? So does it have to do with your operation? All right, you might have written to him saying that it should not be taken out. We have also written to the chairman. I'm sure he has reflected our opinion to you. So why have you not agreed to the suggestion that it be taken out from the civil service pay rise? So it should be debundled. So why not? Bureau Director, before you answer the question, because he referred to the chairman. All right, let me tell you this. Well, you said that it should be taken out, and then I asked the administration whether or not they would be doing that. So I did not give any advice, because some members wanted to be taken out, others not, and I'm neutral. So the administration already replied to my question, so I was not involved in the process. I did not give any advice to the administration at all. If you ask me, all right, there are many things that are more urgent than civil service pay rise. Okay, so you've taken up 30 seconds from me. Allow him to speak.
Chairman, I've said according to our establishment, I would not take out the item on the police. Have you made a decision that is you will not, upon a request, take out the? Are you involved in making the decision that you will not take out the item on the police? As for the civil service pay adjustment, I have followed the policy that has existed all along. I will not consider taking out the adjustment for individual department. Just then you were saying that there are opinion surveys that showed dissatisfaction with certain department, but what lie behind such surveys, we don't know. There could be all sorts of reasons behind the survey. As civil servants, we have to follow the existing mechanism and avoid being politicized. If you have to take out the proposal for the police force, then you are actually blowing up indefinitely the behaviors of individual officers to the point that officers will be penalized without proper investigation. That would be unfair and a deviation from the existing mechanism. Chairman, you owe me 30 seconds. But Secretary, Do you know what's happening outside? Do you know it's loud and clear how people think of the police? And members had concerned about the funding proposal for university, and then you took it out from the agenda. But how come you do not take out this item on the police this time when there's opposition against the pay rise? So you are just trying to actually, you may be being unfair to other civil servants by insisting on bundling them together. Why can't you just take out the plan for the police force? Why not? Do you have new points to make? Any other supplements from Secretary? No? Okay, next one. Ever Young, 5 minutes. Chairman, you always said that you heard what the public said. Same for us. In our office, we received, particularly from the low-ranking civil servants, they were asking why their pay rise have to be bundled with that for the police together. Why did the government, for the sake of the 33,000 police officers, whose pay rise was objected by many, why the police should bundle them together with the pay for the other 130,000 civil servants? Joshua Law, why can you, for the sake of the 33,000 police officers, forget about the welfare of the 550,000 civil servants? Are they not civil servants? Just then you said you don't know what lie behind the police service. Let me tell you, the opinion survey was done. You can Google it. It was done by the Hong Kong Public Opinion Institute. If you doubt its credibility, you can check it out. The institute even carried out a survey on the credibility of your boss and the entire cabinet of the SAR government. Have you looked at how all the ratings for the Hong Kong government dropped? You are better because you seldom came out. People didn't know you as well. If the pay rise adjustments was made this time, Mr. Law, please tell us the PC who got the maximum pay each month, the maximum OT that he can get upon the pay rise, what would that be? Please, Mr. Law, give me a figure. The maximum PC. You mean police commissioner? No, I mean PC, who is at 0.15, the maximum pay scale. The maximum point on the pay scale for PC. I'm not talking about the police commissioner. After the pay adjustment, for someone who's at the maximum point, that is 0.15, if he had also maximum OT, how much he would bring home altogether? For the OT payment for individual officers, it would depend on the amount of hours he worked overtime each month. Secretary, does it mean that there's no limit for PC? If you work overtime, that means there's no upper limit on how much you can get as salary? I was just asking you about the upper limit, if there is. Secretary? Yes. For OT, it depends on the operational needs of the police. Normally, there's a limit, but police commissioner has the power to, if the operational needs so require, can increase the limit. So how much are we talking about? Is it that it can be unlimited? Is that what you mean? Subject to approval by the commissioner? If that's the case, next time we should get someone from the police force to talk to us next time. Chairman, it is actually all up to the commissioner to decide depending on the operational needs. But in reality, someone cannot work 24 hours a day. He needs to rest. So I'm sure the police force would monitor the situation of their staff and make the arrangement for OT depending on the need. Let me assist the government, Chairman. Let me ask you in this way. Do you have any figures offhand, that is up till now, by today, before the adjustment was made? Do you have any information on the over the past few months, the maximum pay, including OT, given to a PC? Do you have a figure now? we don't collect such figures. Civil Service Bureau. Why not? We are talking about pay rise today. Why don't you have such figures, Chairman? We are talking about annual pay rise, but not overtime payment. But Chairman, is overtime payment not relevant to pay rise? Chairman, we are talking about the salary itself. OT has to be dependent on, as the Secretary said, how many hours you work overtime each month. Chairman, OT is based on a base point, a standard salary. So we are talking about increasing the base point, right? So I was asking you for the PC at the maximum point, that is 0.15, since 2018, April 1, every month he's making 34,475. So if he's getting OT payment, how much would he be getting? If you don't have the figure, next time get someone from the police to come. The upper limit of PC's working hours is determined by their superiors. So I can't answer your question. Do you have data with you now? Everyone's situation is different. Overtime payment, would that affect the overall civil service pay adjustment? No, yeah, it would have no impact. Yeah, that's fine. Had no wrong. 5 minutes. Chairman, Democratic Party, 7 members from the party on November 1st, more than a month ago, we had written to the chairman for him to refer it to the administration, expressing our request to have the pay rise for the police dealt with separately. We received your reply, but we don't agree with your reply. The point is, for pay adjustment for most civil servants, we have no opposition. We hope that they can get the pay adjustment quickly. But the point is now, among the civil servants, the police force in particular is hated by many. And as a Secretary for Civil Service, have you communicated with the police force? Have they really treated people, Hong Kong people, as people? They are now actually using the batons and then just beat anyone they like who's standing in their way, and they fire bullets into people's heads. If these things hadn't happened, we would not be discussing it now. Under normal circumstances, we would approve the pay adjustment. Democratic Party never asked to take out the part on the police. But now, because of the special circumstance, we are making the request. Police officers of the 9 discipline services, it had a rating of only 40+%, and it is ranked in the bottom of the various disciplined services. So no matter how the police have abused its power, made wanton arrests, and are they still entitled to the pay rise? People have told us that, who are affected by the pay rise, some of them are teachers, they said to me that they don't have a pay rise so that the police force would not get pay adjustment. You said that without, investigation, and we don't give them pay rise, and that's not fair to them. But the point now is that we are being unfair, and that's why we asked the government to set up a committee of inquiry to investigate. I'm sure there's some good members of the police force, and we wanted to investigate who had done wrong. But you turned down our request, and the image of the police force now has been severely affected negatively. And now the public cannot swallow the proposal of increasing the pay for the police. We don't want to get the police officers enjoy a pay rise together with other civil servants. Now we are talking about a special circumstance, Secretary. If you keep following the original mechanism and not deal with it in a special way, then I'm sure the entire civil service will not be given the pay rise. Secretary? For civil servants, all along, we have to follow the mechanism. For police force and individual incidents involving them, members, others may have their own views, and there are procedures you can follow to address your concern. We should not just on the basis of the view on the behavior of individual officers. We should not, as members said, blame or get all the other civil servants to suffer with them. Still, I hope that members can actually look at the fact that all along we have professionally We have abided by our professionalism in carrying out our work, and every year the civil service pay adjustment has followed the existing mechanism. Now we are talking about last year, the entire of last year till April this year. We are actually catching up with time lost and rewarding civil servants for the performance for the time after April this year and for any circumstances that happened after April this year, and that should be considered in the next round of pay adjustment next year. So, Secretary, I'd like to ask you, well, you think that police officers are part of the civil servants, but if they call Hong Kong people as cockroaches to be battered, do you think that's what do you think of the quality of such kind of civil servants? Do you have problem with this sort of quality? Have you asked the police officers to apologize to the people? As for individual incidents, I think policy bureau heads are following up on them. I wouldn't just make criticisms on the basis of words used. I hope that right now every side can be tolerant and adopt a mutually respectful attitude. Just one last point. I'd like to ask the Secretary for Civil Service clarify one thing. Which policy bureau head have you asked to deal with the complaint? Is it Secretary for Security? If there's any complaint, we will refer the case to the head of the department. Okay, we've discussed for 2 hours. Let's have a break for 5 minutes.